Hey, thanks, Arthur. Hey, all right, bringing it down since I'm so much shorter, even with the heels. Well, it's great to be back here. Hello. So many people I recognize, so many new folks, and so many folks coming in on Zoom. I recognize some dear members. I'm just going to call you out. Yes, thank you, Muriel and Lois, and I see Judy, and Alice is driving, and Max. I met your son Max David, your son Max, last month at the Brooklyn Society. How many of you remember Max when he was like this tall and scooting around here? Very impish, beautiful smile. He came to the Brooklyn Society last month for our monthly nonviolent communication practice, and it was such a delight to see him. And I also want to point out to all of you, Diane, wave to the folks. Diane London is also on the Encampment for Citizenship board, and so I'm delighted that she's joined us. We had a board meeting yesterday. So I always like to bring a gift when I come. And so this time I brought you a gift, and it's called How to Live a Good Life. And it was edited by Massimo Pellucci. Some of you may know him. He's a biology professor, but in the last decade or so, he has studied and is teaching Stoicism. So he put together this book, and he asked me to write the chapter on ethical culture. So I'm going to quote from my chapter on ethical culture. What I appreciate about ethical culture as a religion is how reasonable it is and how it makes ethics come alive for me. No creation myth or narrative about a God-made man and life after death is involved. Just a common sense recognition that we are one with the natural world, and what we do with our lives matters. Perhaps that is why our numbers remain so low. There's nothing especially mystical about ethics, although one could argue something in terms of transcendence. I suspect that many people resonate with our message, but are non-joiners, leading good lives without the need for intentional ethical community. I, however, need community. And I know that all of you do as well, and that's why you're here. So those were my opening words, and now Evan's going to share a video with you, some opening words from Jessica, Melanie, and Max. These are our more recent alumni. There they are. Okay, thank you very much, Evan. Great. So those are our recent encampers. Now I'm going to rewind a little bit and tell you about our history. And thank you, Arthur, for sharing yours and Lynn's experience with the encampment. So I'm going to go way back, get in the Wayback Machine. In 1946, following the chaos and horror of the Second World War, and concerned by what they saw as the American education system's failure, a group of public-minded individuals established the Encampment for Citizenship. And having witnessed the destructive forces of racism unleashed in Europe, Algernon D. Black, leader of the New York Society for Ethical Culture, and Alice, AKA Nanny Politzer, a prominent civil leader, set out to change America. That was their goal. We're going to change America. Al Black and Nanny Politzer believed that change would come through education and the lived experience of self-governance in a racially diverse community. The encampment experience would be one of true equality, and it would be transformative. So right now, I'm just going to share a photograph. I'm not going to put that up there? Maybe not. Anyway, I'll give it to you. The photograph is of Al Black and Eleanor Roosevelt. And Eleanor Roosevelt was a big supporter. You don't need to hold it. You can. But thank you. It's good to know I can call upon you. Great. By the way, I just want to say that a member of our board now is Al Black's grandson, Elliot Black. And Elliot is named after John Lovejoy Elliot, one of my favorite ethical culture leaders. So 128 students from 27 states attended the first encampment, which was held on the campus of Fieldston. Those of you familiar with ethical culture Fieldston schools know that Fieldston is up in Riverdale, the Bronx. For the first 20 years of the encampment, it was held at Fieldston. And it was only 2 years ago that I finally got a student from Fieldston to participate in the encampment. At any rate, there were groups as diverse as the Farmers Union, the Federation of Women's Clubs, so many different unions there. And Mrs. Roosevelt invited campers to Hyde Park every summer for what she called a weenie roast. Eleanor Roosevelt, longtime chair of the encampment board of sponsors, often hosted students for discussions, workshops, and barbecues at her Hyde Park estate. When the program was attacked by McCarthyite forces in the early 1950s, Eleanor defended it vigorously. She said, "The reason I think these encampments are so important is that they are attended by citizens of different races and groups. They prepare people for thinking in terms of all people and not in terms of a selected few. Not only we in the United States, but people all over the world need young people trained to be good citizens with an ability to think with an open mind." I have to say that not only was it racially diverse and diverse in terms of faith, but it also had Native Americans. And Ada Deer was an encamper and sadly died a couple of years ago. She was a Native American and very proud of the fact that Native Americans were involved in the encampment from the very early days and until today. Throughout the years, the encampment adapted to changes in American society while holding fast to its core mission to create a life-changing summer experience in democratic citizenship. By 1996, more than 7,000 young people had attended encampment programs at sites across the United States and in Puerto Rico. And now Evan's going to show 2 videos from alumni from that time. The first is Jason Warwin, who's the co-founder of Brotherhood Sister Soul. So first is Jason. There he is.
This concept of bringing diverse people together, building community, helping them to develop a level of critical thinking and understanding of social justice, and working and struggling together to try and create change is a model that I've practiced for the last 30 years based on what I experienced at the encampment. The more that we can help young people to think for themselves, to really be able to read between the lines, to be able to weigh evidence, then what we are essentially doing is helping young people to liberate themselves, right? To free themselves from, this web of times of lies, of misinformation, these pressures that we know exist within our society to act a certain way or to think a certain way. And we need young folks who can really think for themselves. And that's the only way that we'll ever kind of get out of the mess that we are currently in.
So Jason Warwin, again, from co-founder of the Brotherhood Sister Soul. And next is somebody that several of you know, and that's Peter Neufeld, born and raised here in the Long Island Society, co-founder of the Innocence Project. and both Peter and Russell were encampers.
Neufeld. I am the co-founder and co-director of the Innocence Project, which is a group that started as a criminal justice organization, small in New York City, and eventually sort of grew into a kind of civil rights movement, and now with 20 groups around the world, a kind of human rights movement, or part of one. But to tell you a little bit about how the encampment affected me and transformed my life, I went to the encampment as a 16-year-old in 1966 in Barberville, Kentucky. And so, as Miles said earlier, our understanding about racism and about other kinds of oppressive movements in the United States, it was like other places, other people, but it didn't have too much to do with us. Encampment was the very first time in my life that I was ever living with that kind of diversity. Never had I done that before. And it was the first time in my life where primarily black people, but also there were other people who were Latin or Native American who confronted me about my explicit and implicit racism. Never happened before. It was scary as all hell. And dealing with those issues, being in a community where, like Barberville, Kentucky, where we were hated, where local people were incredibly hostile to the fact that we had all that racial diversity in our little group. But realizing that it was the black people who were in the encampment who were shot at by locals, not us. That it was the black people in the encampment who had all kinds of curse words and slurs thrown at them as they walked down the streets, not us. It gave me, for the first time in my life, a very different perspective about racism in America and about politics in America. And everything was different after that encampment. Like Miles, I sort of committed myself to criminal justice, social justice, racial justice issues, and have been doing that kind of thing ever since.
Later on in his talk, Peter talked about, you heard him say that he was in Kentucky. Some of the people that he met in Kentucky were coal miners, and they also were offered home hospitality by some of the coal mining families. Peter went home and later read in the news that one of the mines had caved in, and some of the people that he had met had died. So again, a 16-year-old who experienced this and grew so close to the people there, and it was transformative. And that's a word that you'll hear from almost every encamper, is how transformative this experience was for them. When I was clergy leader at the New York Society for Ethical Culture, we hosted a reunion for encampers, so that in May 2009, 3 decisions were made. One, to form an alumni association, and Diane, whom I introduced, she's zooming in from Boston, is the co-chair of the alumni committee. The second thing was to find a safe and secure place for the archives, because some of the archives were in somebody's garage and there was a fire and we didn't want to have any more of our archives destroyed. So the archives are now in Virginia, the Commonwealth there, in Richmond, Virginia. The third decision was to resurrect the encampment for a whole new generation. So 2009, these decisions were made. The first 2 were fairly easy. The third one was not. Why? Because we didn't have the money. Back in 1946, you had L. Black, very well-known personage, and Eleanor Roosevelt. I mean, the 2 of them, partners, and then with the organizing of Nanny Politzer, please. I mean, the fundraisers they held brought in tens of thousands of dollars, the connections they had, the organizations. So there were not only deep pockets to the original encampment, but there were also a lot of connections. So good news, bad news. I mean, that's the bad news, but the good news is you had alumni who were passionate. And they knew that they were going to make it happen. They were going to raise the money. They were going to make the connections. And they were not going to be dependent upon others. They were going to do it themselves. So the Resurrected Encampment was held in the summer of 2013. And it was held in Richmond, Virginia. And there weren't that many young people. And it was only for 2 weeks because that was all we could afford. Because guess what? Young people don't have the resources, and probably their parents didn't either. So a lot of the money that we had to raise was for their keep at the college that we had found there. But it worked. So we did it again and again and again. In 2014, we were at the University of Illinois in Chicago. In 2015, we went to Tougaloo College in Jackson, Mississippi. And let me tell you, it is hot and humid in Mississippi in July. The next 2 summers, 2016 and 17, we were at Hampshire College in Amherst, New Hampshire. Then in 2018, back to the south in Mississippi, Hines Community College, again, hot and humid in July. Then we went out to California. In 2019, we were in Thousand Oaks, Ventura County. Ventura County was wonderful for us because a lot of farm workers there, a lot of migrant farm workers. So we made a deep connection there. The next 2 summers, COVID. We're on Zoom, 2020, 2021. In 22 and 23, we went back to Thousand Oaks in Ventura County and started another project, the Pesticide-Free Soil Initiative. So that was an offshoot of the encampment. What we were finding was we could do more than just the 3 to 4 weeks we could afford during the summer, but we could have year-round programming. Last summer, we were in Alabama, and this summer, we're returning to Thousand Oaks in Ventura County. So we made it work. It's hard. It still is very hard. We have a fundraising committee that I don't know if they sleep because they're always out there on phone banks, making phone calls, reaching out to alumni, asking alumni not only for their money, but also to join a committee, to be part of us. So the encampment is a nonprofit organization that conducts residential summer programs with year-round follow-up. You heard one of the young people on the video say that she's in touch. They're in touch year-round with each other. The young woman who went to Fieldston had graduated. She's now studying in Italy. She joins the Zoom meetings of the recent alumni for the encampment. She joins them. The encampment prepares young people to be informed, responsible, and effective global citizens working for social justice through experiential learning and through living in diverse democratic community. And very much of what you, Arthur and Lynn, were doing years ago, that rubric is still there. It's still about bringing the community together, having them form their own democracy, exposing them to different people with different points of view, and making sure that on the ground, they're connecting with local people. And what we're very fortunate in Ventura County is that there's a Native American community that we've connected with there as well. It just provides the youth with a compelling experience in democratic living with an emphasis on critical thinking and social justice in action. So one of the challenges that we have is not only raising the funds, because most of these encampers are on scholarship, but also because it's only for a 4-week period. Think about it. You're a teen. You're looking at summer. If you need to have a job, you're working for the whole summer. You can't take that time off. If you are privileged, your parents might be sending you on a round-the-world trip. You might be going to Europe or trekking someplace. So reaching that niche group of young people who can afford to take the 4 weeks and are really motivated to be movers and shakers in their communities, in their schools, in their townships. It takes a lot to reach them. So recruitment is a challenge to reach them. And then when we've reached them, you have to convince their parents. Jesus, who's our program director, was telling us yesterday at our board meeting, he spent over an hour with one applicant's parents trying to convince them that, yes, this is a real deal. We really are legitimate. We've been around for a long time. We've got history, trying to convince them that this is a good thing. Our approach to young people includes surfacing what young people know already and give them a sense of themselves. You'll hear over and over again, I found my voice and I was taught and supported in how to use it. Over and over again, using my voice. Facilitating inquiry-based exploration of social justice issues and modeling how to look at the world through a lens of curiosity and questioning. So many times when I go to the intergenerational weekend towards the end of the program, and campers will say to me, even though I'm African American, even though I'm Latino, blah, 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 fill in the blank, I did not know about the social justice issues and challenges that my parents and my grandparents faced and that I'm facing now. I have a vocabulary for it now that I didn't have before. It's also building a sense of community as community. As you heard in the video, I'm in touch with all these people. I know they're there for me. And that is the root of participatory democracy. And it makes inclusion real. Yes, inclusion. DEI, diversity, equality, inclusion, it makes it real. Encouraging young people to think creatively and critically. I just say part of the creativity is that when we're looking at applications, we want to know, are you a musician, a singer-songwriter? Are you an actor? Are you involved in theater? Because a lot of the program involves the creative arts. And then using the lens of the arts to analyze, to dig more deeply into the truth, and to seek a meaning for all of their experiences. We use the art of storytelling a lot. They come in for the circles and they're telling their own stories and reflecting back the stories they're hearing from each other. And then we introduce young people to a variety of strategies and approaches to working for justice so they know that it's possible and that change can take many different forms. And I'll tell you, they come in with some projects on their own, and sometimes they stick with those projects, sometimes they change, sometimes they go home with different projects. But they all take home something, and they all report back what they're doing in their communities and their schools. I have some marching orders for you. Some people call them closing words. Liesl Burns, who is a leader at the Brooklyn Society for many years, called them marching orders. So the first one is, I'm asking you, imploring you, to join the Brooklyn Society for Ethical Culture and the New York Society for Ethical Culture, who for the last 2 years have funded a full scholarship for an encamper. It's $5,000, and it's worth it. It pays for their room and board while they're there. It also covers part of the airline transportation. I mentioned Elliot Black earlier, grandson of co-founder Al Black. He works in the aviation industry, and he pulls out all the stops to make sure that kids can get on flights. So we're asking people, if you have miles, if you got credit on your credit cards for miles, those are all good. The second thing I'm asking is that you join on March 22nd, our Intergenerational Cafe, Intergen Cafe. It's open to everyone. And you will see at the Intergen Cafe, it's called The Power of We, Sharing Our Stories of Power. And it will be at 2 p.m. Pacific time, let me say Eastern time, 5 p.m. Eastern time. And I'll follow up giving you all the links and all the information. But when you come out to an Intergen Cafe, you will see older alumni, you will see recent alumni, and they're all sharing their stories together. We in the older generation serve as mentors to the younger ones. One of our members, Steve Lieben, has helped one of our more recent campers get into law school. And she recently graduated from law school, and she's working with the encampment now. So these are young people that were able to see through these different phases of their life. And because today, and one thing we realized when we had that alumni gathering in May 2009, is that we have technology now. We can email, we can Zoom, we can do all of these things. And so people used to go home. Peter and Russell Neufeld said they would go home, and of course they had Muriel, which was wonderful, their mother, and so they could keep them connected to things. But many young people would go home and have no support whatsoever for what they had experienced. You get a newsletter, but it's coming by snail mail. Now they're able to stay connected, and they're able to see their projects through and have it supported. So they've got this connection not only with one another, but with us elders as well. So please come on March 22nd at 5 p.m. to the Intergen Cafe. It's generations of ordinary people telling their stories about how they reshaped history and how they're fighting to change it again. So I think that's the end of my marching orders. I think I've covered it, but I do have closing words, and that's recruitment for 2025. So thanks, Evan.
What would you say to someone who is thinking about joining the encampment next year?
I'd say do it. I think that it's the best thing that I've ever done. Honestly, just such a great experience. And even if you're a little scared, like, oh, I won't make friends, I was super scared when I found out there are a lot of people from California. And I was like, oh, I'm the only one from my state. And I was just very nervous that I wasn't going to be able to connect with anyone, but I've made lifelong friendships here. So I think don't let any of those fears get in the way, because as soon as you get here, they just all float away. So.
You were immediately following, eh? Okay.
Yes. Now, this is something that I think we've added since you were here, Anne, which is we take 5 minutes now for anybody who has a question for Anne, for her to respond. And Joan, you've raised your hand. So I have to repeat it because people in Zoom will not be able to. You want to use the microphone? Okay, that's great.
Well, the question, use the mic.
Hold on. Use the mic. So the question is, it is Joan Beater that's asking the question.
We're live, yes?
Yes.
Okay, the question I have, Anne, is what does a typical day look like at the encampment for the campers?
I can only give you hearsay, Joan, because I come to the Intergen weekend, but I'm not actually on the ground with them. We play different roles, and that's not one of my roles. However, I hear tell they actually have breakfast. They get up early, they have breakfast. And it could be certainly an opening circle sharing what's going on with you, sort of a check-in, and then looking at the day's agenda. It might be a field trip. And I know that they're going to be taking a number of field trips in California, including to the, Diane, I might be getting the name wrong. I'm not even going to try to get the name of the Native American community that they're going to be joining, but it could very well be a field trip in some event with them. I know that when it was held in New Hampshire, they took a field trip actually into Boston to go to an immigration court, because a number of our encampers had some status that was challenging, and so to go into an immigration court to see how that happens was important. It could be meeting with some local politicians. What was also important when they were in Massachusetts was going into Springfield and meeting some council representatives there. So a lot of it is really on the ground, getting together with folks. And it could also be, and very often is, a lot of singing, and a lot of poetry. Oh my God, they are amazing poets. So it could be that they're writing and sharing their poems. One of the things they do for us elders at the Intergen is to put on a kind of a show. So at least during the last week, they're thinking about, what they're going to perform for us, that comes out of that. So just a lot of things are percolating, and then a lot is just left open for spontaneity. But certainly, Eating together, absolutely.
And together, and I assume living together.
Absolutely living together. As I mentioned before, a lot of it is somewhat didactic in terms of here are social justice strategies and learning about those. So that goes on as well. But thanks for your question. And yeah.
Okay. This is Steve. Go ahead, Steve.
Could I ask you, what is the age range of the campers, and what's the supervision?
Okay,
Like, what's the
great
ratio
questions.
of directors to students?
Yeah, it's the age range is 16 to 18 years old. So basically high school. It is we are very careful with our adult supervision. So the ratio, that's a good question. I guess if I count in everybody, it would have to be an adult for every 5 campers. And there are different levels, of course. We also have interns. We have some older teen and younger 20 interns, and many of them have been in campers themselves, so they kind of know the routine. We also have, I'm looking at Diane because Diane is a mental health professional, and so we make sure that we have mental health resources available to everyone as well. So we're very cognizant of our responsibility to our young people. But thanks for that question.
I was curious about how many kids typically for one encampment, and are there more than one conducted per year, or is it just one location?
Yeah.
And finally, is there some kind of curriculum that is sort of holds this whole program together?
Yes. I wish we could afford more than one venue. Back in the day, back when Arthur and Lynn were doing it, there were multiple locations. And again, there were deep pockets and a network of connections. We can't afford more than one location right now. We could accommodate up to 30 encampers, but we haven't gotten that many since we resurrected it. So we're lucky if we can get about, I'd say an average of maybe 25. And then the curriculum. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a curriculum that I can hand to you, but I know that we have a program director, we have a program committee. It is, and again, I'm not on the program committee, I'm on the board, but I got a report from them yesterday at our board meeting, and it's quite intense. And as I said, a lot of it does involve social justice history and strategies, but it's also the creative arts, and also making sure that we have that connection on the ground with groups that are there. So it's a pretty dense and intense curriculum, but we really lean into the participatory aspect of it because we want to elicit from the young people what they already know. And connected. We don't want to be in a teaching mode only. So,
This is Linda. Want to be the last question?
Hi, Ann.
hi, Linda.
So with what's going on right now politically, do the kids have an opportunity to express how they're feeling about, what's happening in terms of their fears or their ignorance or their, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I really appreciate that question. If you go on our website, encampmentforcitizenship.org, you will see in there a statement about Project 2025. And this was our younger alumni very much wanted to do this. And we elders were concerned because we are fragile. We're a 501c3. We could easily be targeted. So we were cautious. So in typical encampment fashion, we formed a task force which was intergenerational and brought folks together. And Elliot Black actually was part of that. We had a couple of attorneys, as you might appreciate, and young people. And so if you go on our website, you'll see the statement about Project 2025. Yes, deep concerns about it. And so we knew that we could address the issues that it brought up, and certainly the moral and ethical issues it brings up for us. But that expression, 2 expressions, I think we were unprecedented, how much is unprecedented these days, and the other thing is how do we thread the needle? And how do we, because we can't do any good if we're no longer in existence. And so check it out. I thought they came up with an excellent statement addressing Project 2025. So this is for you, and that's for you.
All right.